Hello everyone, I'm Himanshu Vasnani from Department of Mechanical Engineering. I'm here to discuss with you on the subject Material Science. The subject code is ME207 and unit number 3, lecture 19 in the series, and today's topics are induction heating, defects of faulty heat treatment. So let's start today's lecture. So today's learning objective will be to provide the students with a basic understanding of induction heating in defects of faulty heat treatments. And learning outcome will be students have learned the basics of induction heating and students understood various types of defects of faulty heat treatments. So first of all, let me tell you about batch furnaces. Okay, the basic form of furnace that we use in the industry. See, so far we have discussed about in heat treatment. We have discussed about annealing process, normalizing process, hardening process, and tempering process, and nitriding process, and you can say carburizing process. So in all the heat treatment processes, one common term that we see either when we are heating, we use a furnace. So a furnace is very an important, you can say, part of heat treatment process. If you go in the industries also, you will find different kinds of furnaces, but it depends upon the application that what kind of furnace is used in a particular industry. Okay, so let's start with the furnace. In order to place the job in place, the basic requirement of these furnaces are an insulated chamber, the heating system, and a door or several doors. See, a furnace may have a single door or outlet or several doors depending upon the application. Okay, so you can say a furnace is maybe having an insulated chamber. Okay, it's why insulation is required so that heat cannot escape outside. Okay, the heat gets trapped inside for better usage, for increasing the efficiency. The heating system may be in terms of coils or maybe in terms of some external like for gas or some fire. You can say it can any medium. The heating system and a door or several doors. The parts to be heated treated are loaded and unloaded in individual batches. The parts that the parts that we are used that want to work upon it, they are to be heat treated are loaded. You can see in the diagram also how they are loaded and unloaded. The work is in a different batches. You can see around the two or three piles are easily visible in the diagram also. So in this way, in batches they are loaded and unloaded in the from the furnace. So furnace, which is very easy to use, simple to construct in various sizes, and also having versatility to accommodate various sizes in a box furnace, which could be horizontal, rectangular. Okay, the furnace. When we're talking about the furnace, see, it is very simple to construct in variable sizes. Okay, but it all depends upon what kind of design do you want for your application. Okay, so several times a flat platform on wheels is used to carry the parts in the furnace. We normally use some kind of a flat platform. Like in the diagram also you can see there is a flat platform that is used for loading and unloading the, you can say, the workpieces inside the furnace and outside the furnace. So this is helpful. Now, pitch furnace. Now, this is the form of furnace in the form of a vertical pit below the ground level. You can see this. You can see in the diagram also. You can see how the furnace is below the ground level. Okay, so you can also call it as a pit furnace because it is called as a pit. So the parts that you want to go for heat treatment process, they are put or lowered inside the pit, and then the heat treatment process is, you can say, processed. So one can suspend long parts like rods, bars, tubings, shafts, etc. in the space of pit furnace. If placed in horizontal position in the box furnace, these parts are susceptible to distortion. See, if you place parts in horizontal position, okay, in the box furnace, so these parts may lead to distortion. So we go for a kind of a pit furnace. These are helpful. Why? Because these pit furnace, these are made in the form of a vertical pit below the ground level. Okay, so you can understand how beneficial they can be when for some particular applications. Now, bell furnace. See, bell furnace is, as the name says, you can understand a kind of a shape from which, from the upper side, which it can lowered and pushed in the upward direction. It depends. Okay, so you can say that this furnace does not have a bottom like a bell. The bell does not have a bottom. So this furnace does not have a bottom and is lowered on the stack of parts to be treated. Okay, it is lowered on the stack of parts, the workpieces. Okay, so it is lowered on the parts to be treated. So the furnace chamber, it can be round or rectangular. So here you can see in this diagram, in the second diagram on the bottom side, it is the chamber is in a round shape. Okay, so it can be used. So here you can easily understand and make out from this diagram also that how a bell furnace can easily look like, and the pit furnace is look like. See, each furnace has its own importance. Okay, so depending upon the application, you can use a particular kind of a furnace. Now the elevator furnace. Okay, now if you I'll compare the three afterwards. Just let me explain you the elevator furnace. See, in this furnace, what happens? The parts to be treated are placed on the rolling platform, which rolled in the proper position and lifted to the heating chamber of the furnace. As the name says, elevator furnace. So you can see that the parts which you want to go for home heat treatment process, okay, they are placed on a platform, okay, which the platform goes in the proper position. It is lifted to the heating chamber of the furnace. Okay, so here it's kind of a elevator kind of functioning happens. So it is called as elevator furnace. So in one more addition, you can do that by placing a quenching tank there directly below the surface of below the surface. The savings on quenching time and space are made. Means they are saying that you have a platform. Okay, on the platform you can put on your workpieces in which you want to go for, you want to do home treatment, and that platform is taken to the required heating zone, heating chamber of the furnace. So a kind of a elevation of the workpieces towards the heating chamber is done. So in this way, the elevator furnace name is done. Second, and if you want to save some more time, so you can place the quenching tank directly below the surface. So here, what happens that the time required for making the material move from there to the quenching tank is saved. It is, you can say, the space is also saved because your quenching tank is placed directly below the surface. So here also it is saving, you can say, manpower and space for quenching tank and time for carrying the workpiece from one place to another place. So here elevator furnace has its own application, but it can be used for applications which require this kind of settings. Okay, then only you can go for elevator furnace. Now continuous furnace. See, this furnace is used in many of the industries nowadays because uh, all of the three furnaces like pit furnace or bell furnace or elevator furnace, they also can be programmed, but this has a good programmed heating cooling cycle, this kind of furnace. Okay, moreover, in if you compare with the pit furnace, then also you have some time for loading and unloading of the workpieces or the, you can say, or all the parts. But here you can easily, the time required for loading and unloading is just negligible because the handling of job is very minimal in this kind of continuous furnaces. Moreover, if you compare with the Bell furnace also, there this furnace is holding better advantages than that also. So let's study about continuous furnace. So these are the furnaces in which parts to be treated are placed on some sort of conveyor. Here you are using a conveyor belt which move into the furnaces according to the programmed heating cooling cycle. Means that these furnaces have a programmed procedure or have a programmed cycle in which the heating and cooling of the parts is done automatically as per the program. Now this whole you can say program, this helps in saving the time for loading and unloading and also handling of job is reduced. You can save the time for loading, unloading and handling of the particular jobs is also reduced. Now these furnaces are most suitable for high production rate and better control of heat treating cycle. You understood? These furnaces are suitable for high production rate and better control of heat treating cycle. You might have seen in various industries these kind of you can say continuous furnace are seen, and you can see a chamber outside the nearby the continuous furnace where the operator controls all the processes that are being done in the continuous furnace. Okay, you can easily monitor them from the nearby chamber in the nearby the continuous furnace. So the operator programs the process in such a way that the execution is done in a very easy way. You might have also seen like in various industries in which they go for you can say double time, twice they heat the workpiece to obtain the required amount of hardening in the required workpiece. So what they do, they heat up the workpiece for once at about a particular temperature depending upon the experimental results, and then they quench automatically in the nearby in the quenching tank only, which is in between the continuous furnace. Then again this whole lot of parts is automatically lifted from the quenching tank, and then again with the help of conveyor it is again gone for further uh, heat treatment again and passing through a particular kind of gases so that the problems of brittleness and cracks that appeared in the previous heat treatment process are removed, and a better structure, a better material is obtained in the second heat treatment process. And again, after the particular heating time, it again quenched for the second time to obtain a better material in terms of structure. So continuous furnace is one of the most commonly used furnace in the industry nowadays. Okay. Then salt bath furnace. See, this is also you can say salt bath furnace is also very good in when you have you can say uh, when you have the you can say you to ensure this good control of uniform temperature, okay, and heating high heating rates as compared to air or gas. The salt bath furnaces are most suitable. Okay, when you have some high heating rates as compared to air or gas, then you can go for salt bath furnace. As the name says, salt bath. So metals or molten salts have higher conductivity than air or gas. So whenever you go in this, the salt may be heated from the outside of it is non-conducting or are passing a low voltage alternating current between electrodes placed in the salt. You can see the electrodes in the diagram also, how they are placed in the salt. Okay. So in order to avoid electrolysis of salt, direct current is not used. They don't use the direct current in order to avoid the electrolysis of the salt. So among metals, lead is commonly used. One can obtain wide range of temperature from such furnaces. So salt bath furnace is also used, but they are only can be used because then metals or molten salts they have higher conductivity than air or gas. Okay, so they in this salt bath furnace they have a good control of uniform temperature, and moreover the important thing that they can obtain high heating rates if you compare with air or gas, and for such reasons we go for salt bath furnaces that I was telling in the starting. So let's go to the next slide. after a salt bath furnace, induction heating. Now this is also very important kind of uh, you can say heat treatment heating process. The previous furnaces that we have discussed, you might be we have discussed earlier also in some lectures in short form, but now we have discussed in detail. So now we'll go with the induction heating process. Now the most perfect method of surface hardening is induction hardening. Okay, is induction hardening in a spatial installation where articles are heated by high frequency currents. Okay, you use high frequency currents for heating the articles. Okay, and induction heating is normally primarily used for, you can say, for surface hardening. Okay, you can see in the diagram also you have a steel pipe and how an induction coil is there around the steel pipe and how this heating is done at a particular area, at a particular portion of the steel pipe. Now, this method it is highly productive in nature and can be completely automatized, ensure high rise in production, and minimizes their buckling and oxidation. So this have the advantages of this induction heating, that it is highly productive and it can be automized, and will give you a high rise in production, and also it will minimize the buckling and oxidation. So, with an increase of the frequency of AC current, electric current, the skin effect is enhanced. Okay, you know that with an increase of the frequency of AC electric current, the skin effect is enhanced, and that is the current density in the external layers of the conductor turns out to be many times greater than its pore. Okay, it appears to be many times greater than its pore. So as a result, we can say the heat that we are using is liberated. The heat is liberated almost entirely in the surface layer, and the latter is heated much more substantially than the core. Okay, the coils, the heat is liberated almost entirely in the surface. Okay, the surface layer, and the latter is heated much more substantially than the core because it is getting the direct current. Sorry, it is getting the. I'm sorry, it is getting the AC current in this. Okay, so high frequency AC current heating of particles is affected by an inductor coil. Okay, now then the previous diagram I have shown you that there is a steel pipe and you have an induction coil all around it, and how this is heating the surface layer of the workpiece. Okay, so if you see in this second diagram on the 10.14, so here also you can see that there is a kind of induction coils, and the part which to be heated and quenched, it is also sitting there. Then in the diagram on the right hand side, you can see that there is a kind of generator is there. Okay, and then you see the water is there on the below in the B diagram. Okay, so it is written that the coils for induction heating in the A is shown to you, and then arrangement of a workpiece inductor coil. Okay, the workpiece inductor coil and spray for hardening by induction heating. The one number that is written in the figure B is shown as the article or the part. Okay, the two is shows the induction coil, inductor coil, you can say, and the third is the sprayer. Okay, the third is the sprayer. So here this diagram is showing you a more elaborative, you can say, or the different ways of induction heating. So high frequency AC current heating of article is affected by an inductor coil. So if an article has a relatively small length or height, its entire surface can be heated simultaneously to the hardening temperature. The requirement that it should have a relatively small length or height. Okay. Now with longer articles, heating is carried out successfully by moving the articles relative to the inductor coil at a proper speed. Okay. Now if you have a long length, then Automatically heating is carried out successfully by moving the article related to the inductor coil at a proper speed. Now in the figure also you can see that shows induction coils. The figure shows induction coils which normally are made in copper or copper based alloy which are water cooled. Okay, which are normally made in copper or copper based alloys which are water cooled. The induction coil is also designed for quenching the part after heating. Okay, it is also designed for quenching the part after heating. For that purpose only, you can see on the diagram on the right hand side, you can see there is a sprayer shown in the figure B. So might be okay. So here this is a design for quenching the part also. A cooling of articles in induction hardening is usually affected by water which is supplied through a sprayer that we just discussed. Okay, perforated tabular ring embracing the article. So you can go with that. Now the furnace atmosphere. You can see in the diagram how the furnace from inside look like. See in the till the previous diagrams we have seen the furnaces that were red hot. Okay, but this furnace is not is still not. You can say started, so it is not red hot. So you can see how the furnace looks like. You can see the coils inside it and all such arrangements for heating. Now, when the heating is not through salt bath, then the job to be treated is subjected to varying atmosphere. I repeat, it's subject to varying atmosphere. For example, atmospheric air or any one of the several gases present in the atmosphere. Okay. Now we read that surface oxidation or tarnishing and decarburization are the main problems which the metals face. Okay, the kind of problems that we have uh, things that there is a surface oxidation or decarburization or tarnishing that is the main problem this is. Now, what are the reasons like oxygen may cause oxidation? Okay, rusting and scaling. Okay, so we can note these kind of things. Then, depending upon the concentration, CO2 may cause decarburization in furnace atmosphere. So, for that purpose, we are discussing about furnace atmosphere because, like oxygen, if it is there in the furnace, may cause oxidation, rusting, and scaling. And if the CO2 is there, depending upon the concentration, this CO2 may cause decarburization in furnace atmosphere. Like in the presence of water vapor, blue thin film is formed. So for improving surface appearances, bluing of surface is done. Okay, okay, bluing of surface is done. Now nitrogen provides a neutral atmosphere. So often vacuum furnaces are used for small and accurately finished parts, provide complete safety from effects of atmosphere. Okay, so this is how the furnace atmosphere is discussed here. Okay, because what happens that they say that uh, the inside atmosphere may affect the so somewhere if oxygen is there, then also there are result. If excess CO2 is there, then also it will lead to some thing. And if there is water vapor, then also the effect is there like blue film is formed, thin blue films is formed. So we need to understand the furnace atmosphere also when we are then say studying about heat treatment. Okay, now comes the important topic: faulty heat treatments because following major defects in a metal formula. See, we have been discussing about different kinds of heat treatment processes, right? Heat treatment processes like annealing, normalizing, tempering, hardening, carburizing, cyaniding, nitriding. So these are a kind of heat treatment processes which require a particular temperature. Like we studied about annealing, that they require a temperature about critical temperature, and then they are allowed to cool in the furnace only. And normalizing, we also need there is a temperature, then we allow to cool in the air. But if the heat treatment process went wrong, or it may have some fault. The fault may be like the furnace is not showing the exact temperature, or maybe due to some reason the temperature raised above the required temperature, or maybe due to some reason the temperature is not rising in the furnace. You are heating the workpiece to a particular temperature, it is not reaching there. So uh, continuously heating at that point also may lead to some changes. So these are all faulty heat treatments. These are all faulty heat treatments. So we need to understand that what kind of defects they go for in a metal or an alloy. Okay, so the first is the overheating, like prolonged heating of a metal or alloy above a temperature marked by A3 line. Now, this A3 line we have seen before in our previous lectures of annealing and normalizing also. Okay, so we have discussed much about this A3 line. So they say that prolonged heating of a metal or an alloy above a temperature marked by A3 line leads to the formation of very large actual grains. It leads to the formation of very large actual grains. So it is usually termed as overheating. Okay, they say that there is a line A3. If you heat the metal above this line, okay, then it may lead to formation of very large grains. So this is termed as overheating. Now if you look in the diagram also, you can see that in the diagram you have on the horizontal axis you have composition of percentage carbon. Okay, on the vertical axis you have temperature in degree centigrade. So yeah, the percentage of carbon is divided into like 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, so till 1.6 it is shown, and on the temperature also it is shown till 1000 degrees centigrade. So you can see that the divisions of stress relief and sterilizing annealing and full annealing are properly shown in this. Okay, the full annealing zone is also shown in this. You can easily see the line A3 and ACM is also there. And if you look very easily, then you can see the areas in which the annealing is marked. You can say above the A3 line, you can easily understand how the annealing process is marked, and the full annealing process is there on the right hand side. Okay, below that you have the stress relief zones in which you release the stress, and there is the solidizing. Then there is normalizing zone shown on above the line, this ACM line, and on the left hand side above the A3 line, and also the hardening line is also shown. So you can understand that these required temperatures are there for each process. Okay, you can understand these processes with that diagram. So if you can say heat more, prolonged heating of the metal or alloy above the temperature marked by A3 line will lead to formation of very large grain. So you can call it that overheating. And on the other hand, on cooling a metal, this yields a structure containing crystalline martensite, usually called as Widman-Tatin structure. Okay, now this is something new. Such a structure has reduced ductility. Okay, such a structure has reduced ductility and toughness. So by means of usual annealing, it is possible to relieve an overheated metal alloy. So one may use double annealing for considerable heat. Now we have discussed about this double annealing in our lectures also. So you can see that the you can say to relieve that to retrieve that material for from overheating, we go for double annealing process. Okay, because the material obtained after first you can say first heat treatment process, this has the ductility has reduced in that portion, and the result is not that ductile. So, in order to regain that ductility or increase that ductility, you can go for double annealing. Okay, here in this. So this overheating has One is the one kind of a, you can say, defect that comes. Then the burning. Okay, then the burning. Now burning a metal or an alloy near melting point for a longer duration may lead to burning. Okay, overheating was a defect. Now we're talking about burning. So burning a metal or an alloy near melting point for a longer duration may lead to burning. So this leads to the formation of iron oxide inclusions along the grain boundary. So burnt metal or alloy has a strong, sorry, has a stony fracture, and such a metal alloy is irremediable, and such metals are rejected. So you can see the loss is there. The you can say negative effect of heat treatment is shown by this burning process. Okay, if you can say heating the material or alloy near melting point, you can say, so you should know that you can't heat the material for such long duration. Okay, so in this way, the obviously the metal that is burned or the alloy that is burned, this will have a kind of a stony fracture. Okay, and such metals obviously are rejected because they are of no use. They cannot be you can say uh, get back, or they are irremediable. Okay, so burning should be avoided. Then oxidation, we have discussed about oxidation previously also. Sometimes a metal or alloy gets oxidized due to oxidizing atmosphere inside the furnace. When you talk about furnace atmosphere in the previous slide, then also they told about that oxidation will happen. So what they say that sometimes the metal or alloy gets oxidized due to the oxidizing atmosphere inside the furnace. So it is usually characterized by a thick layer of scale on the surface of a metal or alloy. Okay, if there is a thick layer of scale on the surface of metal or alloy, you can understand that oxidation might have happened. So one can prevent it by making use of controlled atmosphere in the furnace, or using molten salt bath. Now you can understand that why we discussed about molten salt bath. So this has its application now. You can see that you can avoid oxidation in molten salt baths. So in this way, these are helpful. When secondly, if you use a controlled atmosphere in the furnace, so automatically what happens? The oxidation is avoided, it is prevented, and the scaling layer, the thick layer of scale, obviously on the surface is not sorry, is not found there. If you do in a controlled atmosphere in the furnace, okay, or if you use a molten solid mass, okay. Then decarburization. Now decarburization, I have discussed this word in you can say furnace atmosphere with you. So you can understand that if there is you can say it is the loss of carbon in the surface layers of metals or alloy. It is caused by the oxidizing furnace atmosphere. Okay, it is the loss of carbon in the surface layer of metals or alloys, which is caused by oxidizing furnace atmosphere. So in order to prevent it, the metal or alloy should be treated in natural or reducing atmosphere or in side boxes with cast iron chips or in molten salt bath. So you understand the molten salt bath has its application in both the kind of defects. We can avoid these defects of oxidation or of decarburization in a molten salt bath. So you can see how important you can see they are. Now cracks. Uh, okay, oxidation, burning, overheat, overheating, burning, oxidation, decarburization, cracking. Now you can see in the diagram also the cracks, how the cracks are coming. So cracks will occur in quenching when the internal tensile stress exceeds the resistance of metal or alloy to separation. The tendency of a metal or alloy to crack formation increases with carbon content, hardening at temperature and cooling rate in the temperature interval of martensite transformation. The cracks, they also increase the hardenability of metal or the alloy. They increase with the hardenability of metal or alloy. The concentration of local stress is another reason for formation of cracks. We had discussed this earlier also, so not a big deal. We note that the cracks are irremediable defects, obviously, so we need to prevent its formation. So it is avoidable, it is advisable that to avoid stress concentration, that is, sharp corners on the projections, acute angles, abrupt changes from thicker to thinner cross section. Example and from uh, from abrupt changes from thicker to thinner cross section at a time component design. Secondly, we can conduct quenching from the lowest possible temperature. We can avoid crack fiber. And then also we can cool the matter allow slowly in the Martensen interval of temperature by quenching in two media and stepped quenching, that is called Martin, and apply isothermal quenching. So in this way we can avoid the formation of cracks. Okay. Now distortion and wrapping. Now this is consisting in changes in the size and shape of heat treated work, and it's mainly due to thermal and structural stresses. This is mainly due to thermal and structural stresses. Now, asymmetrical distortions of work is often called wrapping in heat treating practice. Usually, it is observed in the case of overheating or non-uniform heating for hardening when the work is quenched in the wrong position and when the cooling rate is too high in the temperature interval of Martensite formation. Okay, when you do for overheating or hardening, you can see that the quenching of work in the wrong position or when the cooling rate is very high, it's too high in the temperature interval of Martensite formation. So you can, if you want such kind of avoid such kind of distortion and wrapping, you can say uh, uh, you should take care that such kind of overheating doesn't take place in order to avoid such kind of distortion and wrapping. So widening these causes one may potentially reduce wrapping. Okay, you can see in the diagram also how the changes in size and shape of the work after heat treatment is there. Okay, so this should be avoided. Now surface finish after heat treatment. Now in this to remove the defects mentioned in the previous section, certain surface finishing options are there. Okay, so I think we should start with the MCQs for now. Okay, we'll discuss this later on. Okay, now to ensure good control of uniform temperature and high heating rates as compared to air or gas, salt bath furnaces are most suitable. We have discussed about salt bath furnace in our previous slides. So there also said that if you want to have a good control of uniform temperature and high heating rates as compared to air or gas, so you can use some salt bath furnace. Okay, so it is true. Now the most perfect method of surface hardening is induction hardening in a special installation where articles are heated by high frequency currents. See, I have shown you the diagram of induction hardening. You can see that there was a workpiece around which there were coils wrapped, and if you supply some current, then the heating zone was there in the surface of the workpiece uh, in between the coils. You can see how such kind of surface hardening was there with the help of induction hardening. So this is true. Okay, you can go with this. It is true. Then the third is sorry, this is the first only. Let me go with the second one. Sorry, the third question is there now. Induction coil is also designed for quenching the part after heating. The cooling of articles in induction hardening is usually affected by water which is supplied through a sprayer. If you remember the diagram that I have shown you in induction heating, you can easily understand that the diagram was also having a sprayer at the bottom. Okay, and the sprayer was basically for quenching purpose. Okay, the water or the quenching medium, but whatever we are using, we were supplying that, you can say, through the sprayer. The coolant, the quenching medium was supplied through the sprayer. So if you again rethink the statement, the induction coil is designed for quenching the part after heating, so this is true. Okay, and secondly, the cooling of articles in induction hardening is usually affected by water which is applied through a sprayer. So this is also true, and we have also seen this kind of arrangement in the diagram in the previous slides also. So this statement holds true. Now, this is made in the form of a vertical pit below the ground level. The parts to be treated are lowered in the pit. One can suspend long parts like rods, bars, tubings, shafts, etc. in the space of the pit furnace. If placed in horizontal position in the box furnace, these parts are susceptible to distortions. So, four options are given, that either pitch furnace or bell furnace or elevator furnace or none. So what is the answer? Now, if we discuss about this, the statement that is given, it is said that it is the form of a vertical pit below the ground level. So that means the furnace is below the ground level. Okay. They say the parts are treated to be lowered in the pit. That means the parts are put inside the pit below the ground level. Okay, and also you can suspend long parts in this, like bars or tubes or shaft. So this is a kind of a pitch furnace. So the answer A is good, because in bell furnace what happens, it is a kind of a different arrangement. Yeah. It is not below the ground level in bell furnace actually, and in the elevator furnace also it is not below the ground level. So elevator furnace cannot be the answer, and bell furnace also cannot be the answer. So pitch furnace is the answer for this. Now, in selecting the heat furnace, the manpower requirement for operation, the initial cost, and the convenience of maintenance and repair are some important consideration. Okay, this statement holds true. We have discussed in the starting of the slides also that the manpower that you are for required for doing the particular operation, and then the starting cost, the initial cost, and then the maintenance cost and the repair. These are important considerations for selecting the heat fund. These are important. So this statement obviously holds true. Wait. This statement is holds true. Now next question. Now during heat treatment, certain tools and machine parts gets distorted or wrapped. To bring them back to the original shape, it is carried out. Dash of roll stock is usually done by roll straighteners or hydraulic straighteners. It is kind of a straightening process. Okay, if something gets distorted, you can bring back to their original shape by help of straightening process. Now, if we use continuous furnace, it helps in saving the time for loading, unloading, and also handling of jobs is reduced. Now, is this statement is true or false? Okay. Now, when we were discussing about it, I have told you how this continuous furnace application is more and more helpful in the industry, and how the handling of job is easier, is, you can say, the easy handling of job is done in continuous furnace. So this statement is true. Okay, if this continuous furnace is saving the time for loading and loading, and handling of job is really. Let's go for the next. Now in this furnace, the parts to be treated are placed on the rolling platform which rolled in the proper position and lifted to the heating chamber of the furnace. So by placing a quenching tank directly below the furnace, the saving on quenching time and space are made. So what do we call this? See, pitch furnace doesn't have a quenching tank below the furnace, so this answer is not true. Bell furnace also doesn't have this kind of tank in this. Elevator furnace have this, so the third option, elevator furnace, holds true for this question. Now this furnace does not have. Sorry. Excuse me. Yeah, this was the eighth MCQ. Then the ninth. This furnace does not have bottom and is lowered on the stack of parts to be treated. The furnace chamber could be round rectangular. Okay, this is bell furnace obviously, because in this only this furnace don't have a bottom, and what happens that you lower on the stack of parts to be treated the furnace. So it can be of either rectangular shape or round shape, depends upon the application and the manufacturing. So bell furnace is the answer. Now the tenth question. These are the furnaces in which parts to be treated are placed on some sort of conveyor. Now the important application sort of conveyor which move into the furnace according to the program heating cooling cycle. I repeat, these are the furnaces in which parts to be heated are placed on some sort of conveyor which move into the furnace according to the program heating cooling cycle. So what do we call this? We call this as continuous furnace. Call this as continuous furnace. They have a program heating cooling cycle and they have also used conveyor for that. So these were the MCQs for today, and I hope I tried to explain you in a better way these MCQs. The topics that we studied today were important, were good in terms of knowledge point of view, because see, when we talk about heat treatment, then furnace comes to our mind. So we should know the different kinds of furnaces that are available in the industry. Secondly, if you talk about heat treatment, then what are the defects that you face when you do a faulty heat treatment? So you should know about that also. Okay. So this lecture was more dedicated to the furnaces and the defects caused due to the excessive heat treatment. Okay. So these are the references that you can refer. Sorry, references which you can refer for your uh, increasing your knowledge in this subject, material science. So thank you all for now.